Hey everyone, Angry Ecologist here. Recently, we've been looking at some footage from my trail cams of how different critters have been enjoying the soil where I have removed invasives and added natives. I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you the reality of these little strips of land that the city so proudly posts signs calling wildlife habitat. What exactly have we left for the native animals to deal with? Okay, come take a closer look with me on something that I call native habitat reality check. We are going to walk from here into the tree line where I've been planting native plants and bringing water to the native animals. All this dried stuff in the fence here is vetch. It's one of the first ones to show up each season. This is one of the later ones to show up each season. And we have a variety of different ones in between those two. We're out at 6 a.m. today because it's going to be 100 and something. Here's some more dried vetch a little bit deeper in. Creates a lot of biofuel. And here it is next to the Italian thistle. God, look at all this. There's a little bit of fallen Italian thistle in there, but this is primarily vetch. Vetch is really bad because of how high it reaches and how much of it there is. With all that airy space in between, just looks like it's a perfect recipe for ignition. I mean, would you look at that? Trying to come back July 13th. Wow. Just not gonna go away, huh? Remember, this is following grazing. All right, let's take a quick tour away from where I've cleared out the invasive plants. By no means do I think I've done a clean sweep. It's just a beginning, and we've seen the wildlife respond to this beginning. Now, that's the end. After that, it's just a floor of dry, yellow, stabby stuff. Let's take a closer look at what the wildlife get to deal with out here. The Italian thistle is bad while it's green, bad while it's dead. Even the grass is stabby, unpleasant. Get in your eyes, get between your toes, get in your organs and your orifices. Some more Italian thistle. Looks real nice. At a minimum, you're dealing with dry, dead crap everywhere, blocking your access to the ground underneath. There's so much of it. More unpleasant annual grasses. Look at those. I hate these things. You'll know why if you ever get them caught in your shoes or anywhere else on you. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Notice you can't see the ground anywhere. Little variety in the problem plants. Let me show you. Spreading hedge parsley, also known as sockbane. Also not supposed to be here. Grows pretty tall. Grabs you. It grabs you pretty good. It hurts on the leg hair. Anytime you move after one's attached to hair on your body, it's like someone pulling your hair. Go ahead, explain to me how goats aren't carrying these things with them. They even freaking attach to me. We got the ripped up brome, we got the slender oats. So there are some positive notes scattered about in here. The saplings, the poison oak. We even have black walnut. But in between these, it's just not any native grasses hardly at all. What I'm slowly working up to saying is that when they bring the goats through here to help the habitat, the very first thing that's going to go is this. In this. I'm not kidding at all. I've been watching it happen for 5 years. And then eventually they'll get around to eating some of this. Not all of it, not even close. And by far and large, they leave what they chew on laying on the ground. They leave it trampled, or they pass it right out their intestines. So that while this continues to be a field of invasive plants, it also now reeks of livestock poop. And anything that looked nice and green and as though it could help fight a fire situation gets turned into firewood, basically. Stripped bare branches. That's one more variety here. Spiny dogtail grass. It's another one that is not pleasant. There's no milk thistle or bowl thistle immediately available to show you, but I think you get the picture of just how limited the wildlife are with what they have to interact with out here. Even if I wasn't telling you my opinion that these plants are unpleasant, the core concept is that these plants are not native. They're not even from this continent, much less this state. And we expect the native animals to deal with them as though they are native, as though they have a evolutionary ecological relationship that dates back ages. They don't. We don't truly understand how much the domination of non-native plants affects these animals. Just because they survive doesn't mean that they're doing well or not suffering. Look at this. And when I say survive, I'm talking about pretty much the human adoption of the ever so popular word sustainable. You got one or two still in existence on some level. You know, they aren't completely extinct, and we're just going to chalk it up as, oh, everything's fine. I don't know how anything survives out here at all. The only place they can find water is where I bring water, or to go to a golf course or somebody's flooded yard or a flooded park. We humans have all the water. This place, despite it being a wet year, has not had a drop of water in the creek bed in the last 2 months. By the way, in this inferno that I'm walking through, I mean, it's really unpleasant. Everything sticking to me in a nasty way is non-native, including the damned spreading hedge parsley. And that sound is the sound of native vegetation that could actually help alleviate heat being killed and being prepared to be replaced with pavement. That'll cool things off. before this, the only plant that grabbed me was the native cleavers. And they grab you in like a gentle, almost cute way and then let go. Just listen to this stuff under my feet. It feels and sounds like it's about to catch on fire. I wonder how animals are able to walk through here without making noise. Maybe they can't anymore, you know? And I mean, I know they're skilled, but maybe we've just made it to the point to where even our stealthy predators or skilled predator evaders accidentally give themselves away because they're walking through a bunch of shit that isn't supposed to be here. I have not seen a black walnut on any of these Northern California black walnuts ever. I'm kind of hoping that this year's rains will change that, but I'm also really concerned about the schedule of the tree and how long it needs to be in a healthy state before it can possibly produce, because all of these are going to be stripped bare in about a month and a half, if not even trampled down to nothing. Goats just love destroying saplings, pulling them to the ground, using their body weight to snap them right down at the base to provide easier access to the rest of the leaves. We'll see. All these natives, all these perennials, these are going to be removed by the goats. It's the only ground cover that isn't an invasive European annual out here. And it's going to get wiped out. That's really sad. See that yellow over there? Yeah, that's pretty much what the wildlife are left with the exception of this nice patch here. Something else that doesn't ever seem to reach a state of producing its fruit is the Pacific poison oak. Did you guys even know that they produce a berry? But these, just like the black walnut, are pretty much not going to exist after the goats come through. Let me take you back to October 14th of 2022 just to prove my point. Bam. Just like that, everything green that I showed you was removed by the goats. You don't see any poison oak, you don't see any black walnut, you don't see any interior live oak saplings, but you do still see the fire fuel on the ground. Just now, minus all the good parts. This, being October 14th, was a couple of weeks after the goats left. They basically turned the place into a burial ground while still leaving behind the problem plants. You didn't solve the problem while removing the few good things that remained. And now the scenario just seems intensified because even the plants that looked healthy now just look like firewood. And not all, it has been reduced. Technically, they can claim that they reduced the problem, but they left all this tall fire fuel at the base of plants that have now been reduced to twigs. Pretty sad. Not to mention that now I can see through the park. The hiding places for a lot of the wildlife are gone. Clearly there's plenty, it's not just a few scraps left on the ground. There are entire plants left intact. But where's the green? The native perennials that stay green year-round didn't just randomly die off for a couple months. Nope, the goats came through and stripped them bare. Here, you got a couple of pieces remaining on this poor sapling. This was turned into a graveyard. And not that I'm terribly offended by the smell of poop, but it's not natural. You know, nature doesn't smell. Has anyone ever thought about that? All those wild animals out there always defecating, and yet nature doesn't smell like crap. Yet as soon as livestock come through, the place overwhelmingly reeks of a feedlot while leaving behind the problems. Now you have the shit of non-natives and the seeds of non-natives and a graveyard of the natives. That's the big blessing that we provide to the wildlife. I just wanted to take you on a quick journey in time back to last year, in case anyone was doubting everything that I was saying. I'm not pulling it out of my head. I've witnessed it happen, and it's going to happen again, and I'll go out and I'll film it again, and the habitat will continue to be degraded by something that we've been told is improving it. All right, enough. Let's get back to present day. Yay, the goats are going to stop all these horrible native plants so that this can turn into this. And this is the pattern. Make no mistake. This is the pattern that follows the grazing. Just going to give you a close-up of our late season noxious weed, the yellow star thistle that comes in like a reinforcement to the European grasses that are dying off. And ever so fitting, we have the ranching barbed wire dating back to the introduction of the very processes that got rid of California's native plants and replaced them with this.